Hello, I'm Ashley Cross, and this is my presentation on leadership models. The first leadership model I'm going to be discussing is the dynamic leadership model. And this model of leadership focuses on improving communication, strategic planning, enhancing its employees that are within the organization, learning how to actively improve the organization, decision making, and it really emphasizes on leadership team assessment. This leadership style also focuses on how important change is in order to be successful within an organization. So you may be wondering, what would it be like to work in an organization that the managers or the leaders have dynamic leadership? So working for this organization, it's really going to create a culture of change. And it's going to expect its employees and managers to be adaptable to change and be able to roll with the punches. The managers will tend to focus more on team building versus a single employee. And that's not to say that the managers are going to ignore the needs or not listen to single employees. They just want to put more emphasis on team building and taking directions and instructions as a team. And these are the benefits. Employees can adapt to change easily. Because they focus on team building, they're going to have stronger relationships as a team. And again, because of team focus, strong teams will be able to work well together. And it encourages employees to be flexible and adaptive. The next leadership model I'm going to be discussing is the Bowman and Deal model. And this leadership model stresses the importance of leaders being able to be situational. And by that, I mean there are different parts of this model, and depending on the situation and what type of organization it is, this model is going to be adaptable and interchangeable. This model is often called the four frame model, and the four frames are structural, human resources, political, and symbolic. I'm going to go into more detail over what the four frames entail. I'm going to start off with discussing the structural construct. Now, this is going to focus on the organization's inner workings and its structure. And this will include the following. They really want to make sure all the goals that the organization has are measurable. And by that, I mean they want to make sure that the goals are actually attainable. And by making the goals measurable, they're going to be able to see if they're successful or not instead of just setting a goal and hoping for the best. They also want to clearly define tasks within the organization. And by clearly defining the task, again, it's going to make them more measurable and make it easier for employees to understand exactly what is expected of them. This also includes creating systems and procedures. So, by creating systems and procedures, this is also another way to make sure they're measurable. And this will assume organizational structure can change depending on the situation. So, what this means is that depending on the problem and what they encounter, they're going to be able to create new systems, clearly define tasks, and if they change goals, they want to make sure that they're measurable or achievable. And the problems from the inner workings can be changed by placing new systems and procedures. The other one I'm going to discuss is the human resource construct. And this really focuses on human capital within an organization or known as the employees. And this assumes people and the organization need each other. And what I mean by this is, in order for the organization to be successful, they need to respond to the needs to their employees and also their customers. In the case of a healthcare organization, it would be the patients. This also assumes organizations are created to serve people. And not every person is the right fit for an organization. And if the person is not the right fit, they will not do well. And this is implying that even if you hire someone and they have, say, the right qualifications, they may not fit within the company's organizational culture. And if they're beliefs don't align with the organizational culture, then no matter what their qualifications, they just may not be the right fit. And the best way for an organization to succeed is to have a good fit with employees. And again, they want to have employees that have the same beliefs as their organization that are going to really be able to fit in and do well with their organizational culture. This slide is going to cover the four frames continued. I'm first going to be going over the political construct, and this is based on resource allocation. It also concerns the budget and what can be spent where. And in healthcare organizations, especially hospitals, there are many different departments. They're all going to have their own resources and they're all going to have their own budgets. And people will create relationships based on resources because in a healthcare organization, there may be some departments, especially when resources are scarce, like during the COVID-19 pandemic, there could be departments that are trading resources with each other. For example, masks, or in the case of COVID-19, maybe someone like a manager of the hospital had to hoard all the resources and allot them for each department. And that would be an example of political construct. And the goal is really to resolve conflicts and to build coalitions. And this is especially useful when an organization is on a tight budget or does not have enough resources it needs. The last part of this I'm going to go over is a symbolic construct. This deals with meaning. This will consider how does the organization members feel about the current issues, and it responds to the needs of the people within the organization. Now, this is really going to focus on those that work for the organization and how they feel. It wants those within the organization to feel like they are being heard, like they have a purpose, like they are fulfilled. So, this healthcare organization, if they used this, would probably have a very positive work environment. The employees would feel empowered and feel heard. And this, they will also choose to focus on the positives of the organization rather than the negatives. And that's not to say that they're going to ignore the negatives, they're just going to focus more on the positives and they're always going to celebrate the wins within the organization. I'm going to go over a few similarities I found within between the two models. Of course, they both focus on improving the organization, what they can do, and how they can improve it. And while it is true that dynamic leadership is geared toward teams, political construct still focuses on people building relationships. They both focus on change, but again in different ways. Dynamic focuses on people adapting, and Bowman and Deal's model focuses on changing depending on the situation. I'm going to go over the differences between the two models. Dynamic focuses on team building rather than the individual. Dynamic focuses on the needs and concerns of the teams, again, rather than the individual. Dynamic focuses on employees being able to change and adapt, while structural focuses more on changing the organization. Dynamic is about employees adapting to change, while human resource is about changing for the people. Therefore, the people do not adapt, but the organization does. Bowman's and Deals can adapt depending on the situation and can focus on the single employee versus the whole team if needed. And finally, I'm going to go over which model is a better fit and why do I feel this way. I feel that the Bowman's and Deals model is a better fit. And this is because they are more adaptable than dynamic leadership because it uses different models depending on the situation. And while team building is definitely important in a healthcare organization, Bowman and Deal's model is more adaptable to change, and healthcare organizations are constantly evolving and changing. The political aspect of Bowman and Deal's model is helpful. in healthcare organizations, especially those on a budget. COVID 19 left many healthcare organizations struggling with funding, fighting over, and in some cases, even hoarding resources. Adapting and working with what resources and budgets that are available are vital for healthcare organizations today. Also, Bowman and Deal's models allows for policy and procedures and organizational structural changes, which is very important in a healthcare setting because there are always updates, new tech, new policies, new procedures, and even new laws in healthcare. So the changes are going to be very frequent. Also, Bowman and Deal's model focuses on meeting the needs of single employees instead of just dynamic, focusing really on the whole team. And it's very important in a healthcare setting to focus on the needs of the individual employees because they're really struggling with staffing right now. Again, because of COVID 19. So, listening to the employees, incorporating them in decisions, and making them feel valued is going to help retain employees. Overall, I feel Bowman and Deal's model is a better fit for healthcare organizations because it's more adaptable depending on the situation. And thank you for listening to my presentation. This concludes it, and this is just my reference page where I got all the information from and where the pictures were provided. Thank you.